All right, today we're diving into a short but, wow, incredibly powerful passage from the Quran. We're talking just 4 verses, but they lay out this amazing argument about disagreement, truth, and what divine justice really looks like. So, let's get right into it. You know, it's a question you see all through history, right? How does a single, unified group just fracture into all these competing factions? Well, it turns out that exact problem is the jumping-off point for the passage we're looking at today. It starts not with some outside enemy, but with a community that's basically turning on itself. So, first up, factions and fractures. We've got to unpack the root of this disagreement. The passage just throws us right into the deep end, identifying this problem of internal division from the get-go. The very first line just sets the scene perfectly. This isn't some simple little debate. We're talking about a fundamental split. But what exactly does the text mean when it says factions? This is where the precision of the Arabic is just so cool. The word here is ahzab, which means parties or sects. But the root verb itself implies a literal splitting apart. So we're not just talking about a difference of opinion. No, this is a schism. And the text is super clear about where this split is happening from among them. This really hammers home that it's an internal conflict, a fracturing from within a community that presumably was once united. And for context, many classical commentators actually link this specifically to disagreements over the nature and status of Jesus. Now, the verse doesn't just point out the problem, it immediately slaps on a consequence. This word, woe, is this really powerful warning that you see throughout the Quran. And the punishment isn't some vague idea. It's tied directly to the scene of a tremendous day, which is, of course, the Day of Judgment, where all these arguments finally get settled for good. Okay, so if the problem is factions, what's causing them? Well, the very next verse gives us a super specific diagnosis. It pinpoints the exact error that led to all this division in the first place. It's so short, but man, is it powerful. The root cause of all this disagreement is simple. People are saying something untrue about God. This one line acts like a specific charge being leveled against all these different groups. And right here you see the central conflict laid bare. On one side, you have claims that attribute very human-like qualities to God, like having a son or partners. The Quran's response is to sweep all of that into one single, incredibly direct category, saying untruth about Allah. It frames the entire issue as a fundamental misunderstanding of who God is. And here's a little linguistic detail that's actually a huge deal. The verse uses the present tense, or they say. This tells us it's not a one-time slip-up, it's a habit. It's an ongoing claim, a persistent falsehood that has hardened into doctrine. And that brings us to the next part of this argument. The passage shifts gears from diagnosing the problem to issuing a direct warning. It lays out a really clear, conditional threat for anyone who keeps going down this path. The logic in the next verse is so clear, it follows a classic 3-step if-then structure. Step 1, if they don't stop saying what they're saying, then, step 2, there will be consequences. And that leads to step 3, the final verdict, where God will be the one to judge between them and settle it all. The verse also has this fascinating phrase, mata'ah al-haya al-dunya, which basically means the enjoyment of worldly life. Now, commentators have looked at this in a couple of ways. Is it a brief, almost deceptive pleasure that comes before the punishment? Or is it a temporary break, a moment of respite? Either way, the message is the same. Any success you have in this world doesn't let you off the hook for ultimate accountability. Okay, so after that really intense warning, the entire tone of the passage just pivots. It's pretty dramatic, actually. It moves away from the tension of the threat and towards the ultimate resolution by introducing the attributes of the final judge. The passage closes with 2 of God's most powerful names, Al-Hakim, the All-Wise, and Al-Alim, the All-Knowing. This final verse uses these divine attributes to anchor the entire argument. So what do these names really mean in this context? Well, Al-Hakim, the All-Wise, means the final judgment is going to be perfectly just, perfectly fair. And Al-Alim, the All-Knowing, means that this judgment is going to be based on perfect, complete knowledge of everything. You can't hide anything. And these 2 attributes, they're doing 2 different jobs at the same time. For the believer, this is a deep comfort, right? It's reassurance that truth and justice will win in the end. But for the person who keeps pushing that falsehood, it's a final, stark reminder. Your claims have no chance of standing up before a judge who is all-wise and all-knowing.
So let's pull all of this together. How do these 4 verses really lock in to deliver a single coherent message? What's the big picture here?
When you look at it, this whole passage is like a compact corrective. It starts with a real-world problem, these factions, and traces it back to its theological root, an untruth about God. From there, it issues a warning about the end of times, and it wraps everything up by affirming that the final resolution doesn't belong to any human group, but to divine wisdom and divine knowledge.
And that really leaves us with a final question to think about. In any kind of conflict, whether it's personal or about big ideas, what is the value in believing in an ultimate arbiter? What does it mean for us to trust that in the end, all our disputes will be settled, not by whoever shouts the loudest, but by perfect wisdom and perfect knowledge?